Hello everyone, this is Thomas again. I'm here with another video. Today I am going to be unboxing this Core 2021 booster box that I bought over at Exiled Games in Herkimer, New York. Their website and shop info will be in the information section below the video, including a link to their online store. They're a great store. I love playing there when Wizards officially allows stores to have open play events again, whenever that may be. I'd recommend checking them out. They're a great group of people to get to know, and the owners are local to the area, and they do a great job keeping the store live and interesting. In addition to when I went and bought the box, they also gave me a Reliquary Tower promo that Wizards had given out for a promotional event. So I was pretty happy about that. And while I was there, I saw that they had this really awesome dragon sleeve of the Dragon of Liberty, which I thought was pretty cool. I always loved the dragon shields. They're a really good set of card sleeves. And I always love when they do their holiday events. So when I saw this, I just had to get it. And I'm looking forward to running this on my decks whenever I get to play in person again. So let's get down to business. And let's pop open this core box and see what we can get. Now, okay. And there goes the shrink wrap. Let's pop this open. So this is probably going to be a bit of a longer video compared to the mystery boosters and definitely to the Ikoria packs. There are a lot more boosters in the standard set boxes than the mystery booster box contains. So it's probably going to be a bit of a longer video. What's likely going to happen is I'm going to probably go a lot faster through the commons and probably focus more on just the uncommons and rares. If there's any uncommons I really want to point out or talk about, I'll do so. But otherwise, I'm going to try to spend not as much time on them. So let's get to cracking. And why don't we start off with this pack here? I need a trash can. So we got the token in the front. Let me check something. Okay, so it looks like the way they've got these is that it's going to be token in the front followed by the land and then the rare. So I'm going to go from behind here and just flip them over. So we have a Lofty Denial. We have Igneous Cur. Great draft card. We've got Valorous Steed. We've got Cancel. Great counterspell. We've got Death Bloom Valid. I'm going to have to come up with some other system for this. Portcullis Vine. Alchemist's Gift. Grasp of Darkness. Great kill spell in black. And we have a Chandra's Magmut. Now what's great about this set is that there's quite a few cards that have this alternate border style, and they're different for each of the colors, of course. And they're typically themed around the planeswalkers in the set. For example, red's going to be anything regarding Chandra, green is Garruk, white is going to be the new white planeswalker, Basiri Ket, who I believe is actually from the plane of Amonkhet. I have to look more into him. Blue is Teferi, and then black is Liliana Vess, of course. So, and we've got Swift Response. Seasoned Hollowblade. This is a pretty great uncommon. I've seen a lot of people use this in decks that run white. It's a 3/1 that can gain indestructible by just discarding a card. Pretty solid. It doesn't have to, outside of having to draw the card, it's for the cost, it's not too bad, but if you can build your deck in such a way that you're getting consistent card draw, it's not much of an issue. And let's see, we've got Volcanic Geyser, double red X. It deals X damage to any target. Let's see if I can get more light. Okay. Yeah. And we've got Epitaph Golem. It's 5 colorless, pay 2, put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library as a 3/5. I thought this card is interesting, and I think in a draft deck, it's not the worst card to take. I definitely nowhere close to being a first pick, maybe second, third go around. This card tends to stay in the packs later on. But if you're a deck that says maybe like something black, black with graveyard mechanics, or you're running cards such as let's see, Carrion Grub, which mills cards into your discard, and there might be cards you don't necessarily want to lose to the grave. You can use this to put them back in, or if you're concerned about losing to a mill deck, this is something you could side in all honesty. I think in limited format, it's got uses. In a standard 60 card format, probably never gonna see play outside of maybe some jank artifact decks. And if I'm right, this is the rare, and we have Heroic Intervention. Sorry, oh god, I can't speak today. Heroic Intervention. This is a reprint, and this is actually one of the better reprints in the set. This is a really strong card. Green and 1. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. And this is a commander staple. And now that this is back in standard, I think the last time this was in standard was during the Kaladesh blocks. This will probably see play in green. Maybe not currently, but probably definitely post-rotation. I think it's definitely going to see play. And then we've got our token, and we've got our land. So I think what I'm going to have to do is that when I open up these packs, I'm going to have to stack everything in front of the rare, and that way I won't have to constantly be flipping everything around. So let me try this real quick. Okay, there we go. Oh, dang it. Yeah, this is going to be annoying to open pack-wise. Okay, here we go. Starting off with the commons. Wishcoin Crab. We've got Life Goes On. Gale Swooper. Sky Scanner. Is that I'm gonna fix that light real quick. I think the light is reflecting off. I fix it. I'm gonna have to get a better lighting situation for everything, or else this is gonna be a problem in the long run. Okay, so we got Sky Scanner, Goblin Arsonist, Titanic Growth. Let's see, is that going to help this? Yeah, that helps. Man, there's going to be that shadow from the camera no matter where I put this. Okay, let's just do our best here. Gloom Sower, Library Larcenist, Revitalize, Hobble Fiend, and here's our first common of the pack, Unleash Fury. Red and 1 additional, double the power target creature until end of turn. This is fairly strong. I really did enjoy this in Limited. I think this is a card that most people aren't expecting when it comes to a red combat trick. The fact that it's uncommon helps with that you're maybe going to see one in a draft, maybe two if you're lucky. But I was playing this in a green-red Gruul deck the other day, and it, especially if you have Trample, this can help you get the damage you need to get a kill if you're like in the final turns of a game and both players have a bunch of creatures stacked up, and this can help you pump the one creature you need to get the damage in, or if you want to kill something really big on their side. But it's pretty straightforward, but it can be really powerful, especially if you have bigger creatures on the field. And our second uncommon is Kinetic Augur. This is a 1 red, 3 colorless human shaman with star for power toughness. It has trample, and this card's power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in the graveyard. When Kinetic Augur enters the battlefield, you discard up to 2 cards and draw that many cards. So this is better in, say, a red-blue Spellslinger deck, where you're going to have a lot of instant and sorcery speeds cards in your graveyard. It can get powerful later in the game. I think in a limited format, it's not the best card unless you really happen to draw into that theme, or you draft into that kind of deck. And even still, because of the fact most limited decks are around 40 cards, it's not going to be quite as powerful as, say, in maybe a standard situation. But there are better options in terms of standard. There's Fairy Dragon, which is which came out in Ikoria, and it gets a +1/+1 whenever you cast a non-creature spell, I believe. So whenever you draw a card. I think it's whenever you draw a card. I have to double check that. I'll look it up. But anyways, so that's Kinetic Augur. Not a bad uncommon. I don't know if you'll see much play outside of that kind of deck. And we have Wildwood Scourge. Wildwood Scourge enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters. Whenever one or more 1/1 counters are put onto another non-Hydra creature you control, you put a 1/1 counter on Wildwood Scourge. This is a great card in Limited. I think you'll probably see some form of standard play with decks based around 1/1 counters. And I think when rotation happens, we'll probably see people experimenting with that. Right now, there's just too many decks that can be fairly powerful right out of the gate. And the problem with that is that with this kind of deck, it's going to be a lot slower. But I think definitely in a commander setting, I think this is a great card. Even if you're not in Hydra Tribal, but say you have a commander that's based around a lot of 1/1 gaining and losing 1/1 counters, this would be a great card to have. And our second rare at the box is Mazemind Tome. You put a page counter on Mazemind Tome, scry 1, and tap it. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to restart this. And our second rare out of the box is Mazemind Tome. It's 2 colorless artifact. You tap it, put a page counter on Mazemind Tome, scry 1. Pay 2, tap it, put a page counter on Mazemind Tome, draw a card. When there are 4 or more page counters on Mazemind Tome, exile it. If you do, you gain 4 life. I had this in my draft deck the other day, and it was really good for helping me kind of fix my top deck when I was digging for a couple specific cards. This is a great artifact. It does see a lot of commander play. And I think I don't know if it will see standard play. Honestly, it depends what... See, the problem with this is that it's a bit too slow, I think, to see commander play. Now, in the other formats, like Modern Pioneer, I don't know. I'm not super as familiar with those formats, so I'd have to look. But this definitely is a great card to have in Commander. And I think some decks could really make it work. Oh, you know what there is? There's that new... It came out in Eldraine. It's Corridor... Gotcha. Corridor Sentry. It's a 1 blue, 1 colorless artifact creature, 1/4 power toughness, and when it enters the battlefield, you can untap another target creature or artifact you control. And so it's a 2-drop, so you won't be able to play both of these at the same time on turn 2. But say you play this turn 2, you scry to his top deck, you play out you go to your next turn. What you could potentially do, actually what you could probably do is tap this during your upkeep step before you draw. And then that way, when you can set up your top deck, and then if you want to reset this, you can play out the Quarter Monitor during your turn to untap it, and it lets you scry it again for next turn. Or, some situation along those lines, So anyways, and here we have one of the unique lands. So again, I talked about how there were those cards from earlier that had those these alternate borders, and there are lands. There's one land for each of the colors that's very similar, and this is the island land. And I do like the styling of it. I think it's a fitting choice for the core set, and I do hope that they keep this that they keep doing these unique style lands, art wise. I mean, in future sets, I've really liked a lot of the alternate art stuff that they put into the sets from over the last year since Eldraine. And I hope they continue to keep doing that. And we've got a Sapperling token. So anyways, let me just organize things a bit here. He did a great shot on my arm. Hopefully my editing skills will get better and better over time. Okay. Already 16 minutes in the video. Okay, pack 3. Let's keep going. Okay. Let's see if I do. Okay, I think I fixed it. Okay. I've got Prismite as my first common out of the pack. Llanowar Visionary, can't go wrong. Masked Blackguard. Jeez, I can't. This video's got off to a great start. Let's see. Fura the Bidden. Ornery Dilophosaur. Big pain in my butt during draft. Sanguine Indulgence. Goblin Wizardry. One of the more humorous cards in the set. I think the concept of it is hilarious. And the tokens that go with this card are these two guys, and it's great. We've also got Spine Megalodon. Rambunctious Mutt. I love the fact that they made dogs an official creature type with this set, and that they retconned hounds to be dogs. Now, this isn't one of the better dogs in the set. The best dog would probably be Pack Leader, and then there's Ren and Siri, which is the mythic buy a box promo that was available when Core 21 was released. Unfortunately, you'll find that most places probably won't have that promo, as it was limited supply and people really love their cats and dogs. Okay, let's keep going. Falconer Adept is our first uncommon. So it's a white and 3, 2/3 human soldier. Whenever this card attacks, you make a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying that's tapped and attack. And in a white deck, this is pretty strong. It gives you flyers in the air every time you're attacking. And a 2/3 stat line isn't amazing, but it's pretty solid for a 4. And in white, especially in this set, there are a lot of ways to pump up your creatures. And we have Quirion Dryad, a green and 1 additional Dryad creature, 1/1. Whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black, or red, you put a 1/1 counter on this card. This is a great card to pick up in draft if you have green and another color. If you're going mono green, there's no point in taking this, as you'll never actually end up triggering this. But I think it's a great card. If you can get this out on turn 2 and you start and you can keep it alive, it can get built up pretty fast. And we have Battle Rattle Shaman. I talked about this in one of the other videos. This guy, in addition to being in this set, was also printed in Mystery Booster, in addition to the Double Master set. So this guy has gotten 3 reprints within the last 6 months, which is kind of crazy. He's 1 red, 3 colorless, Goblin Shaman for 2/2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have target creature get +2/+0 to end a turn. Oh, okay, looks like I did screw up how I did that pack. So, okay, I've got a Duress, which somehow sneaked its way to the back of the pack. So, sorry about that. And I have Baron Tolarian Archmage. I was actually hoping to get one of these in the box. I'm going to be trying out a mono blue devotion deck for standard at some point. So he is 2 blue and additional. A legendary creature, human wizard, 2 power, 2 toughness. When this card enters the battlefield, you return up to 1 target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. Your opponents, yourselves, doesn't really matter. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent was put into your hand from the battlefield this turn, you draw a card. So this is interesting as a commander. It can be a commander as it's a legendary creature. You'd probably want to build some kind of mono blue blink deck. Now, white and blue typically are the better colors if you're wanting to play blink, and I think there are better creatures you can use as your commander, but this is definitely a great include in the general 99. If I wouldn't say run this as your commander, I would say include this as a 99 in your blink deck as a form of benefiting of gaining card advantage off of blinking your creatures, in addition to the advantages you're getting from blinking your creatures in the first place. And we've got a mountain and a Sacralink token. So let's keep on going. See if I can pick up the pace. Let's see. Token, land, rare, common, uncommon. Okay, let's see if I did that. So I'm going to just take out the tokens here and the lands. If there's any lands I really want to show you, I will. But outside of the basic lands, they did the standard reprint of the enters the battlefield tapped, gain a life dual lands, which I think for a limited format is great. It really helps manage your colors better. So, first uncommon we have is Rousing Reed and Radiant Fountain. Run Afoul, Pitchburn Devils, Legion's Judgment. Let's see if I can... okay. So Test and Training, Crypt Lurker, Tome Anima, Defiant Strike, Onaki Ogre, and our first uncommon is Light of Promise, 1 white, 2 colorless, enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature has, whenever you gain life, put that many 1/1 counters on this creature. This is a great card if you're building a limited life gain focused deck in sealed or draft. You do really need to have consistent life gain to warrant running the card in the first place, but when you do, it can really get out of your hand if your opponent doesn't have a quick answer to this. I think it's a great pickup in white if you have access to the life gain, or even if you're playing like something like black-white life gain and you're running something like vampires. This would definitely be a great include. And I think it's going to see potentially standard play if life gain becomes, I don't know, maybe white weenies, probably not white weenies, but any kind of white or black life gain deck will probably see some of this in play a bit. Now, as I said, I'm no expert, so most of what I'm saying are probably at best predictions, in all honesty. So don't hold me to everything I say in this video. I don't want come back 2 months later and have people yell at me in the comments because the card didn't end up seeing any standard play whatsoever. Okay, so the next card we have here is Heartfire Immolator, a red and a colorless creature human wizard. It has Prowess, which is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It's a 2/2 and has the ability of paying a red. Sacrifice this card. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. So it comes down on turn 2. This can potentially kill something with toughness 2, potentially 3, and later in the game, if you're casting multiple spells a turn, this could potentially get up to maybe like 5 power toughness. Especially something like a red-blue Spellslinger deck again. What I've noticed is that with these sets, they typically try to build archetypes between the 2 colors, or between each combination of the colors as kind of a theming that people can build around in Limited. For example, red-green is power 4 or greater a lot. In this case, red and blue is spells matter with prowess, etc., etc., etc. And our next one is Tide Skimmer. Flying for 1 and 3, 2/3. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures with flying, draw a card. Solid if you can build a Flyers deck. If Flyers is, there's always typically a Flyers deck. This will probably see play in that in terms of standard. And we have Thieves Guild Enforcer for our rare for the pack. Black for a 1/1, human rogue with flash. Whenever Thieves Guild Enforcer or another rogue enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 2 cards. As long as the opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, Thieves Guild Enforcer gets +2/+1 and has Death Touch. I think this is a really interesting card. It's a great 1-drop. Black loves forcing people to mill or discard cards from their hand. Especially later in the game, this still has potential because it becomes a 3/2 with Death Touch. And Death Touch can be very powerful in the right situation. And I actually was seeing some people messing around with a Grixis, which is blue, black, red rogue deck, with this being one of the main rogues. They also run Tin Street Dodger. They also run, there's a blue rare in the set that's also a rogue that when it gets damage in on your opponent, it draws you cards. And there's also a Brazen Borrower from Eldraine, which is a fairy rogue. It bounces cards off the board into your opponent's hand. It has flash. So I think this will probably see some standard play, at least in those style decks. And I think in Limited, this is a pretty good card if you're running maybe Black Blue Mill or some kind of hand disruption. So let's keep going. Okay. Let's see. Token land, rare, uncommons. Okay. Run Afoul, Pitchburn Devils, Legion's Judgment, Duress, Prismite, Pride Malkin, Best Cat, Fetid Imp, Voldalian Arcanist, Alpine Watchdog, Crash Through. Epitaph Golem is our first uncommon, and I already talked a bit about him, so I'm just going to go ahead and go straight on to the next one. Unsubstantiate. Blue and a colorless. Return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. Instant. So where it says return target spell, for those who aren't aware, you can target a spell that's on the stack being the cards that are waiting to resolve. For those who are unfamiliar with what the stack is, say I play creature, my opponent plays in response to me playing the creature being the first card in the stack, my opponent plays a counter to the creature, and that becomes the top card of the stack, and there's now the creature at the bottom of the stack, followed by the counter on the top of the stack. And the way the stack works is that it's basically an order from top to bottom of the card of the last card that was played in response. So in a set of actions, and the way it resolves is that the first card in is the last card out, and so the card that's always so the last card that was played onto the stack is always the first one to resolve, and that's how you can get some really weird interactions with. Especially in like later turns in a commander game with multiple counter spells going off or abilities and effects occurring. And so when players refer to the stack, that's what they're talking about. And so that's how you can target a spell, even though the spells never actually are never actually a permanent on the field. They resolve when they hit. And so some of the lingo is confusing. It can be a little hard to grasp at first, but it's not too hard to get a hold of it. And if people want me to, I can try to do a video dedicated to talking about some of these mechanics. But anyways, I think this is a great card. A lot of times you prefer to set... typically you don't want to bounce cards. You typically want to get rid of them. If you're exiled, just send them to the grave. In some cases, there's just nothing you can do, and sending them to your opponent's hand is as best as you can do, especially when they're casting something really mana intensive, and it basically prevents them from attempting to cast the spell again, and it's a big waste of their resources for the turn. So, and it can also bounce an attacking creature, so I think this has potential. It'll probably see some sideboard play in blue decks. And we have Tolarian Kraken. 2 blue, 4. Creature Kraken, 4/6. Whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1 colorless. When you do, you may tap or untap target creature. This is a great card in draft. It's a late game, huge creature. Really allows you to mess with your opponent's board state and get hits in by tapping and untapping their creatures. It even lets you to untap your own creatures. It doesn't have to be your opponent's. And you're always going to draw a minimum of 1 card per turn, so as long as you have the mana, you can always untap or tap something. And when you're playing blue, you typically have a lot of other methods of drawing cards, so there is a lot of potential that you can hit off this card. Don't know if it'll ever see standard play. It's a bit slow. 6 CMC is a lot. But who knows? Maybe if there's ever a deck based around it, who knows? And our first mythic of the pack is Basiri Ket. As you can tell, this is actually the alternate border for Basiri, because you can tell that the mana pips aren't the same style. He is 2 white and 1 additional, legendary planeswalker Basiri. I've been saying Basiri. Jeez, I wish I could actually read the cards before you speak, Thomas. He starts with 3 loyalty. And his uptick +1 is put a 1/1 counter on up to 1 target creature. It gains indestructible until end of turn. His -2 downtick is whenever 1 or more non-creature creatures attack this turn, you create that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. Your -6 is you get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you create a 1/1 soldier creature token, then put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So he's definitely white mechanically to the core. Loves small creatures, 1/1 counters. He loves generating them, making your creatures bigger over time. His -6, if it goes off and you have a board full of creatures, is game ender. And especially in late game, if you're going wide, which means having a lot of smaller creatures, you can just keep on generating just a ton of more tokens to keep on attacking. So like say you have 5 creatures, you downtick them, now you have 10 creatures that are all swinging at your opponent. Now they're all swinging for maybe 1 damage apiece, but you only have 20 life, so you only need to hit, only a couple of the creatures actually have to connect to really matter. I think he's a great card. I think he'll definitely see play in white decks, probably not until standard rotates. White's kind of got the short end of the stick right now in terms of playability. Most people are typically playing the other colors, blue and green being probably the more predominant colors. There's a lot of strong cards in those colors right now. Some of those cards that are really prominent are going to rotate, but there are some that are going to stick with us up until next year that in those colors that are still fairly strong. So let's keep going. let's see, token, land, rare, common, common. Okay. Okay, we have Teferi's Protege, Grasp of Darkness, Back to Nature, always a great reprint to see, Titanic Growth, Walking Corpse, Ranger's Guile, Defiant Strike, Destructive Tampering, Vodalian Arcanist, Secure the Scene, and here we have our first uncommon of the pack, Archfiend's Vessel, 1 black, 1/1, Human Cleric, has lifelink. And when this card enters the battlefield, if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, exile it. If you do, create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying. So, as I've said before, black tends to love recurring a lot of cards out of their grave. It's a very black, it's a standard, it's a typical mechanic in the black, in Magic. So this, draft, you have to draw the right cards for it, but there's Raised Dead. There's quite a few cards that in this set alone that can bring cards back from the grave. And there are cards, for example, from Theros with Enter the Breach that allows you to play any card out of your grave at a cost. So it's definitely... maybe you'll see standard play. I think there has to be the right kind of deck around it that really cares about recurring stuff from the grave. Right now, especially because of Pharaohs, there's a lot of decks that, if they have cards from Pharaohs that recur from the grave, they're exiling other cards out of the grave as additional cost. So who knows? We'll have to see. But I think it's a fun card, and in draft, if you have the right cards with it, it's great. Otherwise, it's a 1-drop for 1/1 with lifelink. Can't complain there. We have Sanctum of Shattered Heights. It's 2 in a red. Legendary Enchantment Shrine. You pay 1, discard a land card or shrine card. Sanctum of Shattered Heights deals X damage to target creature or planeswalkers, where X is the number of shrines you control. So there are 5 shrines in the set. It's a cycle, 1 for each color, and 6 shrines. There's 5 for each color, and then there's a 6th shrine that is all 5 colors. Shrines were something from all the way back in Kamigawa, so there's not a lot of them, unfortunately. And the fact that they're legendary means you can only have 1 copy of them out at any time. I've seen plenty of people try to make this deck work, and people really want to make this work. But unless they start printing a lot more shrines in the upcoming sets, I don't think it's ever going to see competitive standard play. I mean, definitely there's a lot of jank based around it, and there's probably methods of being able to make non-legendary copy tokens, or token copies. I think it's neat. I think it's great that they're referencing Kamigawa, that they're bringing back this type of card from all the way back then. But limited format, not a bad pickup. They tend to do things in the color that they like. This case, red, dealing damage by either discarding a card, a land card, or if you happen to get a second one of these, another shrine. Standard play, unless they start printing shrines in the next 3 upcoming sets that are going to be in standard, don't get your hopes up. Okay. And speaking of shrines, man, I would have hated to have pulled this during draft. Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest, 2 in a green. This is the green shrine of the cycle. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add X mana of any 1 color where X is the number of shrines you control. It ramps you on turn 3 by an additional mana. That's as much as I'm going to say about it. I maybe on the 3rd pass around, I'd maybe draft these shrines out of the pack, in all honesty. Unless you're really trying to make the shrine deck work, I really don't recommend grabbing these during a draft, at least at first. And we have our rare for the pack, Brash Taunter, 4 in a red for a 1/1 goblin. Indestructible. Whenever Brash Taunter is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. 2 in a red, tap it. This card fights another target creature. This card is hilarious, and I've seen a lot of red decks or decks try to get some really nonsensical kills with this. And I think it's a really fun card, and I think it's probably going to see a lot of play. And I think there's definitely going to be commander decks that are going to want to run this. And I know that there's potential with goblins, just even running this in a standard goblin deck. And there's another rareness I call Suspicious Snoop. Suspicious Snoop, I think. I have to double check the wording on it, but and it lets you play goblins from the top of your deck, and you have your top card revealed. And if it's a goblin, it doesn't let you play them. It copies all the abilities of goblins, the goblin that's on the top of your deck. So there's a lot of fun shenanigans that you can do with this card, and I'm happy. It's one of the few cards in the set I'm actually really happy to see. Man, 40 minutes in, and I don't think I've even hit. I've hit 5 packs. This is going to take a while. Okay, let's keep going. Token, land, rare, 3 uncommons, and okay. Okay, rookie mistake, finishing blow, short sword, cage zombie, Spell Gorger Weird, Garruk's Gorehorn, Village Rites, Goblin Wizardry, Spine Megalodon, Concordia Pegasus, and here's our first uncommon, Skyway Sniper. Oops, sorry about that, dropped the key. A green, 1/2, Elf Archer, Reach. Pay 2 and a green. This card deals 1 damage to target creature flying. Does what it says. Pretty simple. Not a bad pick in limited. I really don't think this is going to see standard play. Here we have Enthralling Hold. 2 blue, 3 additional, enchantment, aura. You enchant a creature. You can't choose an untapped creature as the spell's target as you cast it. So this has to be a tapped creature as the target. You control enchanted creature. The reason they have that wording is because they don't want you to be able to instantly benefit from gaining a control of that creature, whereas a lot of the red, I take control of your creature and swing, they'll give those creatures haste. And those situations, because they're only last on the turn, because of the fact that you gain control of this until this enchantment is removed or the creature is removed from the board, they don't want you to be able to instantly swing with it, and that's why they have that clause. I think it's a neat card. I think in draft it's annoying to having to deal with it. I think it's a solid pickup if you're in blue. Standard play, honestly, I'm going to say probably no in terms of doing this in standard because of the fact that there is a lot of removal currently going around. It's not the hardest thing to deal with. Maybe past rotation, there might be some decks using this. I think the fact that it's 5 CMC and that the creature you control it has to be tapped makes it a lot worse for standard play, considering you want to be able to benefit from the cards you're playing right away, typically, because standard tends to be a bit of a faster format. People definitely throw this in commander decks, blue ones that love to mess around and control other players' take turns. You know, you'll see this in degenerate blue decks. I think it's a neat card. I think in draft it has, it's a great pick. And here we have another dog in the set, Bolt Hound, a red and 2 additional, elemental dog, 2/2, haste. And whenever this card attacks, other creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. This is a great pickup in red. It drops on turn 3, it can swing for 2, and it pumps all your creatures by 1 attack on the board. It is weak to removal, I will give it that. But it's, in a sense, it's almost like a combat trick on a stick. If you can get it to stick around, You can keep benefiting by swinging with every turn. In red, you're typically wanting to be aggressive with your creatures, so I think it's a great pick in red. Standard play, people might play this in a dog tribal deck based around Rin and Siri. That's probably about it. And for our rare, we have Volcanic Salvo. 2 red, 10 colorless. Sorcery. This spell casts X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. Volcanic Salvo deals 6 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalkers. This could have been a great fireball. This could have honestly just been a fireball reprint. Now, if fireball can actually be reprinted, I have to check if it's even on the reserve list. I'd be surprised if it was. Now, the card itself isn't bad. It's definitely not something you're going to be playing on turn up until about maybe turn 4 at the earliest, depending on the strength of your creatures. But the problem is with red aggro right now, it's a lot of low to the ground, kill you by turn 5 style decks. They're not going to want to play this. Maybe a more mid-range deck or a deck where it's multiple colors, or maybe chonky red where they're running like the dragons and stuff, you'll want to see this. But currently as it stands in standard, mono red aggro is a great deck, but it's typically low to the ground and fast. This is not the kind of card they want to be drawing on turn 2. Volcanic Salvo deals 6 damage. Oh yeah, I already read that. Okay, but I think it's a great card, and I think it'll definitely see play in red commander decks. In a limited, probably not a bad rare, not a bad pack one, pick one. Sets you in a color. It's a late game kill. You'd probably want to draft a lot of creatures, probably higher power creatures, like the 4/1 ogre. So that way, probably by turn 4 or 5, you have a potential of casting this and wiping their board. Yeah, it's a neat card, and I think it's very fitting of red. Unfortunately, though, it's not the same kind of red that's being played in standard right now. Man, I might have to make this video multiple parts. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll get this out over a couple of parts. Okay, land, rare, 3 uncommons, and rare on top. Okay. Okay, we have a short sword. We have a cage zombie, Spellgorger Weird, Wishcoin Crab, Life Goes On, Deathbloom Thallid, Drowsing Pteranodon, Igneous Cur, Lofty Denial, Celestial Enforcer, and here's our first uncommon, Griffin Airy. Enchantment, white and additional. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, you create a 2/2 white griffin creature token with flying. Great and limited with life gain decks. I saw some people running this a little bit in life gain decks in standard. It does what it says. It's nothing amazing, not bad. Probably not going to see super competitive standard play in any sense of the word. There's probably, in a life gain deck, there's probably better options for it. At least from what I can recall. But, I mean, in limited, it's definitely not bad, as long as you are drafting towards a life gain style deck. Chrome Replicator. This is an interesting card. 5 colorless, artifact creature construct 4/4. When this card enters the battlefield, if you control 2 or more non-land, non-token permanents with the same name as one another, you create a 4/4 colorless construct artifact creature token. Basically, it wants you to have 2 cards with the same name on the field when you play this to get an additional token that's basically a copy of this card without the ability. Artifact decks, they'll probably like it. Standard play, I'm gonna say with confidence that this is probably not going to see standard play outside of maybe a devoted artifact deck right now. Colorless artifact isn't necessarily super great. There's no big payoff for running colorless. In limited, it's a lot harder to use due to the fact that in limited, you're typically not going to have, at the most, maybe 1 or 2 copies of a common, and maybe an uncommon if you're lucky. If you get 2 or more of the same rare, you're pretty lucky. But the problem is in limited that you're going to have a very difficult time getting this ability to trigger. Otherwise, it's a 4/4 for 5, which isn't great. If this card were in the right deck, it'd probably be really useful. But definitely in terms of limited, definitely not a great pickup. I see this often going like on the 3rd pass around. And we have another enthralling hold. I already talked about it, so I'm just going to go ahead. And we have another legendary creature, Niambi, Esteemed Speaker, white and blue, human cleric for 2/1. Has flash. When this card enters the battlefield, you may return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, you gain life equal to that creature's converted mana cost. You pay 1 a white and blue, tap, discard a legendary card, draw 2 cards. This is a really interesting one. As I said earlier, white and blue blink, where you bounce something and it comes back, or you generally bouncing stuff is typically in those colors great. It's a fun card in limited, not a bad pack one, pick one. Gives you 2 colors to draft in, which helps. Lets you adjust your ratio of colors as need be, depending on what colors you're seeing more of in the packs. Has great benefit from playing it. It has flash. You can play it in response to your opponent as a blocker, bounce, as you bounce something else to your hand. The discard a legendary card ability is pretty specific. I'm going to say that a lot of times you're not going to have a lot of legendary cards in a draft format. Standard, it's an easy enough restriction to build around. Commander, I don't think people are going to want to play this as their commander. This will probably be a card that they play in white-blue blink decks. I think it has a lot of benefit. This might see commander play, but I think this will be something that people will want to put in their 99 instead of as their commander. But I think it's a great card overall. So let's keep on going. Okay. Token, land, rare, uncommons. Okay. Goblin Arsonist. Short Sword. I've seen a lot of those out of these packs today. Finishing Blow. Truffle Snout. Best pick. Radiant Fountain. Colossal Dreadmaw. Gloom Sower. Valorous Steed. Igneous Cur. Lofty Denial. And here's our first common. Fungal Rebirth. 2 and a green. Instant. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If a creature died this turn, create 2 1/1 green Saproling creature tokens. So green is typically the secondary color that likes graveyard recursion, especially green-black together is great for graveyard recursion. This is definitely not a bad card to pick up, even if you're just only playing green. It lets you get access to something that went to grave. And additionally, it has the stipulation where if a creature has died on the field, doesn't matter whose creature it is, as long as it died during the turn, you get a 1/1 chump blocker, which is always great. I think it's a great card. I think this might see some standard play, maybe. Really, I think it really need a deck, probably something along the lines of something green-black, maybe even Sultai, where it's green-black-blue, with like, what's the card? Oh, that from Ikoria, the mythic I pulled the other day, the Fiend, the green-black Fiend. But the point is, specific decks will love this. Probably outside of that graveyard recursion or graveyard as a resource deck, probably not going to want to see this played. Limited, I think it's great. Pick it up if you're in green. It lets you get something back if your opponent, like, say, forces you to discard a card out of hand. Rewind, 2 and 2 blue. Instant, counter target spell, untap up to 4 lands. So, this is an interesting counter. I like it. I think it works in certain decks over others. The problem is with this card, you have to have the 4 mana available to you first of all. Some of that mana is in rocks. Great, it lets you untap your lands to tap for colored mana, which is great. I think Commander players are going to love this card. Limited, it's kind of iffy if you want to really take it or not. Depends on what kind of deck you're building. Standard, I think there are better counterspell options in Standard currently and past rotation that is probably not going to see a lot of Standard play. Unless you're playing something, maybe Flash decks might like it, but the problem is yeah, I could see Flash decks liking this. Outside of that, it's probably not going to see Standard play outside of those kinds of decks. I think it's a great Commander card. Cheap. It's a fairly cheap pickup for a decent counter. Games tend to go long. You tend to have mana rocks, so you're able to maybe play this on turn 2 to 3. Definitely preferred in certain styles of decks over others, but I think it's an interesting concept for a counter. And we have Havoc Jester, 4 and a red, Devil, 5/5. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, it deals 1 damage to any target. Great card. They're red and black like sacrificing creatures to deal damage. There's a bit of that in this set, but there is currently before the ban that recently happened within the last 2 weeks here. Rakdos Sack was a archetype in Standard that tended to be one of the top decks typically. There were some recent bans that has affected that, and especially with rotations, some of the key cards such as Mayhem Devil are going to be rotating. This is in sort a replacement to it, but it is 5 CMC compared to Mayhem Devil's 3 CMC, so it's a lot slower to get your sacrifice payoff onto the field. So I really think once rotation happens, we're not going to really see the sacrifice decks as prominently, especially because some of the key combo pieces that were going to stick around even after the rotation have been banned, mainly which is Familiar, or Cauldron Familiar. I've died to that card so many times, I'm glad it got banned. And lastly, we have Idol of Endurance, 2 and a white artifact. When it enters the battlefield, exile all creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard until Idol of Endurance leaves the battlefield. You can pay 1 and a white tap it until end of turn. You may cast a creature spell from among the cards exiled with Idol of Endurance without paying its mana cost. I think it's a great pickup for limited. It's a great pack one, pick one. Typically in white, you're going to be playing a lot of you can play a white weenie. I think white weenie decks will love this. It lets them recur some of their key pieces that get taken out by removal. I definitely think it has Standard play. I'm pretty sure I've seen people play it in Standard already, and I think it's a great rare overall, and I think it has a lot of potential in most formats. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, Volcanic Geyser, Rookie Mistake, Finishing Blows. I've seen a lot of those today, along with Short Swords. I have a ton of those so far. Cage Zombie, Spellgorger Weird, great reprint from Ravnica for draft. Ranger's Guile, great green card to pick up in draft. Alchemist's Gift, Makeshift Battalion, Ravnica reprint. Sure Strike. Oh, I screwed up. What the heck did I do? Did I miss an uncommon in there? Oh, yeah, okay, that's what I did. Because there was a foil in the pack, there was an extra card. Or they put the foil behind the rare, so that's why the Volcanic Geyser ended up in the front. I didn't even realize it. So let me talk about Volcanic Geyser. 2 red X. Volcanic Geyser deals X damage to any target. Like Fireball, just costs an additional red instead of it. I'm pretty sure Fireball's probably on the is on the list of things that will never get a reprint ever. Great red card, good removal and limited. Might see standard play. As it stands, I think the double red casting cost kind of hinders it in cards that decks that like to be multicolored. Mono red doesn't really care, but I think in most cases you're not going to be pumping this for enough to really warrant playing it over other forms of removal. But hey, in Commander, you can pump this for 20 and blast your opponent in the face, so there's always that. I think it's a great include. Solid red card. It's a lot of fun if you know how to use it. Okay, let's talk about the other uncommons here. We have Leafkin Avenger. Red, green, 2 additional. Elemental Druid, 4/3. You can tap it, add green for each creature you control, power 4 or greater. 7 in a red, Leafkin Avenger deals damage equal to its power to target player or planeswalker. Great card in limited, especially if you're playing red and green. Red and green in this set, typically in terms of limited, has the power 4 or greater matters. A lot of their creatures tend to have 4 power, or they have methods of getting to 4 power. It's a great card. It can help you generate mana. It can help ramp you into your big game ender. It's also something that you, in late game, you can pump mana into to hit your opponent in the face for 4. Great card. I think people play this in elemental decks and standard. Definitely not a bad card. Oh, and still. Okay. Well, let's talk about this. Liliana's Standard Bearer. 2 and a black. Zombie Knight. 3/1 flash. When this card enters the battlefield, draw X cards where X is the number of creatures that died under your control under this turn. The fact that it has flash makes this ability so much better. Because you can play it... you don't have to play it during your main phases. You can do it, during combat, or right after a board wipe, or even on your opponent's turn, which is also convenient. I think it's a great card. Don't know if it's seen any standard play. Probably not at the moment. Might see play in maybe a Dimir Flash deck, or maybe a deck that really focuses on a lot of wipes. Who knows? I think it's a good card. Not bad. Definitely not bad in limited. I think it's a great limited pick. Okay. And we have another Skyway Sniper. I already talked about them. And the card that messed up this whole ordering a pack was a foil Thornwood Falls, which is the Simic, which is the blue-green tap, enters the battlefield tapped, gain a life, and then it lets you tap it for green or blue on the following turns. Okay, let's keep going. Hopefully I won't have that happen too much. But if it does, at least we know why, that we have the additional card. Oh, yeah. Token, land, rare, 3 additional. Okay. Okay, here we are. Skeleton Archer. Chandra's Magmut. Hunter's Edge. Dub. Pride Malkin. Fetid Imp. Frantic Inventory. Feet of Resistance. Goblin Wizardry. Spine Megalodon. Pestilent Haze. Meteorite. Oh, I went into the uncommons without even talking about them. Sorry. Okay, so first uncommon we have is Pestilent Haze. 2 black and an additional. Sorcery, choose 1. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn, or remove 2 loyalty counters from each planeswalker. Not a bad black uncommon. I think limited, it's fairly strong. It can kill your own creatures if you're not careful. I think the remove 2 loyalty counters is a lot more useful than the -2/-2, depending on the situation. If your opponent's playing like a white weenies deck, I think it's great. There are ways to prevent creatures from dying, like say by giving them indestructible until the turn, and when this effect ends, you know, they won't die to it. But not a bad black. I don't think it's going to see standard play. Maybe, but probably not. Meteorite. This is a weird one. Pay 5, artifact. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any one target, and you can tap it to add mana. It's a mana rock that deals damage when you play it, but you can only play it starting on turn 5 most games due to the fact it's a 5 CMC cost. I think it's fitting. I think when you think of a meteorite, it hits something and then just kind of sits there and radiates energy, quote unquote. Not bad if you're looking to have color fixing and limited. I don't think this is ever going to see standard play. I could see people playing this in Commander for fun, but probably outside of that, not at all. Waker of Waves, 2 blue, 5 colorless. Whale, 7/7. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-0. 1 in a blue, discard. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. I think this is a great card in draft. It is expensive, but it is 7/7 for 7. And it also is a banner that negatively affects your opponent's creatures. You can also, if you draw this early in game, it can help you set your top deck, get stuff into the graveyard for recursion with black or as a resource. I think it's a great card. Might see standard play if maybe there's a deck that really wants it. I think the archetypes are there, but I think it really needs some good support to go around it. But the fact that you can get it out of your hand early enough to help set your top deck makes this card a lot better. And Azusa, Lost But Seeking, 2 and a green. Legendary creature, human monk, 1/2. You may play 2 additional lands in each of your turns. This is a great card. Commander players love this. If you're playing green, you probably are going to want this card in your deck. The fact that it lets you play 2 additional lands, so total of 3 lands per turn with this card on the field, is amazing in Commander. And there's decks that are literally built around getting as many lands on the table as fast as possible. And they tend to be very degenerate, but they can be fun. Standard play. Maybe. There has to be a deck that warrants it. The problem is because it comes out on turn 3, in terms of standard, it's not fast enough. It dies easily to removal. And there are other methods of ramping in standard that are probably faster and safer. Specifically Cultivate. Because of the fact that this can get removed, you could say play this in turn 3, and your opponent could instantly take it out before you can play. Like you go to play a land, in response to you playing a land, you get rid of this, and so what? You pay 3 to get an additional land on the field and a creature in your grave. I'm going to take a guess and say it's not going to see standard play. If you play Commander, definitely grab it. And Limited, definitely grab it. It's got value to it. And it's just a great card to have, honestly. Okay, let's keep going. So far the polls have been pretty good. I'm thinking I'm probably going to split this video maybe into multiple parts. And that way you guys aren't slogging through a 2-hour-long video. Might be also easier on my computer to upload it in multiple parts. Land, rare, 3 additional, and then on top. Okay, let's see what we got. Threshing Brontodon. Oh, guess what? We must have a foil. We do. So I'm going to tuck him in the back here. And I'm going to fix this. So I'm going to get a sneak peek at the cards here. You won't. But well, at least now we know how to tell when we have foil in the pack. Okay, so let's go through the commons real quick. Anointed Chorister. I've died to that in really unfortunate circumstances, and I'm still a little salty at that card. Roman Ghostlight. Gnarled Sage. Snare Spinner. Deathbloom Thallid. Sure Strike. Tome Anima. Defiant Strike, Onaki Ogre, and here is Threshing Brontodon. 2 green and an additional. Dinosaur, 3/4. Pay 1, sacrifice this creature, destroy target artifact enchantment. Great piece of green removal. It was in the last core set. Saw a lot of sideboard play in a lot of green decks. Definitely a staple. Definitely are going to want a play set of these. And for standard and in limited, it's also really great. It's a 3/4 for 3, and you can use its ability to get something really rid of something really annoying on your opponent's term of the battlefield in terms of artifact or enchantment. But there's a lot of those going around, especially enchantment-wise, going around right now that are a bit of a pain in the butt, in all honesty. Great card, definitely going to want to have a playset of these. Cultivate, another great green card. Definitely sees a lot of commander play, but it's definitely going to see standard play considering that we lost Spiraling Growth in the recent banning, and it was going to be rotating out anyways during wins and the card releases. So it's a green and 2 additional sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic lands, reveal those cards, put one into the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, and shuffle your library. Turn 3, ramps you 1, and make sure that you have and makes sure that you have an additional land in hand for your land for turn 4. Great card, get a playset. No arguments there. Hellkite Punisher, 5 and 2 red. Dragon, 6/6, flying. Pay red, Hellkite Punisher gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Great limited, great late game bomb for trying to get the damage in. Probably not going to see standard play outside of maybe people trying to play chunky, big red, where, as I said before, where they tend to want to play these big creatures like the dragons. Unfortunately, it's not the flavor of red aggro that a lot of people are wanting to play right now. Mostly it's the smaller creature to the really fast aggro. I think it's a great card. Definitely great and limited. Probably not going to see standard play outside of people trying to make those red dragon decks. Yeah, and I mean, definitely dragon tribal decks are definitely going to want to play it in Commander. We have another legendary creature, Rada, Heart of Keld for a rare. Colorless, red and green. Legendary creature, elf warrior. As long as your turn, Rada, Heart of Keld has first strike. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may play lands from the top of your library. For a red and a green, Rada gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of lands you control 3/3. This is a great card. It comes down turn 3. It lets you play lands from the top of your library, which is the fact that you also get to see the top card of your library helps a lot. You could also argue the fact that it helps your opponent knowing what you're going to be drawing into, but oftentimes it's just going to help you get through your deck faster. This is a great commander card. I know people were already wanting to make decks around this. There's quite a few red-green decks that already want to get as many lands as possible. It may not always be the commander, but in those styles of decks, it's definitely going to see play. Standard play? I honestly don't know. I think it's a great card. I could see it being played in some kind of Gruul aggro ramp deck. But honestly, I'd have to see it first. The problem is I just haven't. So I'm up in the air as if it's going to see consistent standard play. I'm going to say probably not the top competitive level, but who knows? Honestly, with Zendikar typically having a land-focused theming to it, this card could be powerful once Zendikar releases. And here's the foil that screwed everything up in this pack, and it's an island. 2 foils, both lands. What are the odds? Okay, on to the next pack. Oh man, we have got a ways to go. My oh my. Okay. Token, land. Okay. Scorching Dragonfire. A reprint I'm actually happy to see. It's a great standard sideboard card. It's a good piece of red removal. Forgotten Sentinel. Mind Rot. Daybreak Charger. Truffle Snout. Drowsing Pteranodon. Liliana Steward, Celestial Enforcer, Unaki Ogre, Capture Sphere, and our first uncommon is Indulging Patrician. Colorless, white, and black, Vampire Noble for 1/4. Flying lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, each opponent loses 3 life. White-black. They typically play aristocrat-style decks, gaining life, draining opponent for life. Great card for commander in those styles of decks. Standard play, I don't really think there's quite the shell out there that really is going to be wanting to play this card at the moment. But I think in Limited, it's definitely great if you draft around these colors with the intent of building a lifelink aristocrat-style deck. And if you just want to build a vampire deck, vampires will love this card. We've got Warden of the Woods, 2 green, 4 additional, Tree Folk 5/7, Vigilance. Whenever this card becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw 2 cards. I like this in Limited. It's a great late game card. It can help refill your hands. Even if it gets removed, it still gains you 2 cards. And I don't think it's going to see standard play. It's definitely too high costing, really. And there's a lot of... and typically you're going to be wanting to play faster cards that have benefits as they're being played into the field, typically. But definitely, I think it's a great limited card in green. We have Siege Striker. This is actually one I don't think I've seen yet. 2 colorless and a white, double strike 1/1, Human Soldier. Whenever this card attacks, you may tap any number of untapped creatures you control. This card gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature tapped this way. Huh, okay. I like this card. I think it would be great in a white weenies deck. You go wide, make a lot of token generation, you play this, swing with it. You tap as many tokens as you need, and so instead of having to worry about trying to get losing a bunch of tokens to chump blocks, you get this one really heavy hitting creature. And you'd probably want to stack something like Trample or... Well, actually, Double Strike will still deal the damage, I believe, to... I think if you kill on the first strike damage, I think the Double Strike damage goes through. So, yeah, I think going wide decks and like white weenie decks would like this card. Okay, and our rare for the pack is Seed of Truth, blue and additional sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. If the spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, put each of those cards in your hand instead. I think it's an interesting blue. There are definitely some decks that like to play spells from library or from grave. So I think those decks would like this card, especially if they're in blue. I think pack as a pick for limited, not bad. It kind of helps set you into blue. And definitely not a bad rare. It's definitely not the best rare you could get. I think you'll see standard play in the right kinds of decks, in all honesty. Okay, token, land. Okay, we've got Forgotten Sentinel, Mind Rot, Daybreak Charger, Truffle Snout, Rookie Mistake, Finishing Blow, Rise Again, Snare Spinner, Turn to Slag, Opt, great reprint, always great to see this in the set. And our first uncommon is Pestilent Haze again. And Meteorite. And Sea Striker. Wow! All 3 we've seen so far. Now let's see what the rare is. Subira, Tulzidi Caravaner. 2 in a red, legendary creature, human shaman, 2/3, haste. Pay 1, another target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. 1 and a red, tap, discard your hand until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control power 2 or less deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. People were really looking forward to this card for Commander, and there's a lot of people currently making deck lists for him. I think limited, not a bad pack one, pick one. You definitely want to build low to the ground as much as possible, and this set definitely has the potential to make a deck around that. I don't think it's going to see standard play. It's just too slow in terms of its abilities. You're not necessarily going to be wanting to get rid of your hand. And in standard, in red especially, there's just not a lot of options for gaining your cards back. I think Commander, it's a great Commander. Not even a bad choice in the 99 in another style of deck. And limited, again, not a bad pack one, pick one. You could definitely get screwed up with the draft if you don't get a lot of low to the ground creatures. But not that this set doesn't have any. It has quite a few, but you have to make sure you actually draft them. And sometimes that's hard. That's harder than God. What's the phrase? Harder than it seems at times. Oh, and here's the Goblin Wizard token. Just look at that face. How can you say no to that face, to hitting you in the face? Okay, so rare. And the 3 uncommons. And flip. Okay, we have Chandra's Magmut, Mistral Singer, Dub, Sabertooth Mauler, Alchemist's Gift, Portcullis Vine, Revitalize, Thrill of Possibility, Cancel, Valorous Steed. And our first uncommon is Bad Deal. 4 and 2 black. Sorcery. You draw 2 cards and each opponent discards 2 cards. Each player loses 2 life. Not the best card in the world. The 6 CMC kind of really hinders it. I mean, I understand why it's so high per the effect. It's just really slow, especially in a color like black that doesn't typically have a lot of ramp. Limited, it's not bad, but a lot of the times you're going to end up with this in your starting hand. It's just going to sit there until you hit 6, and that's if you don't miss any of your land hits for the turn. Probably never going to see standard play. Probably not bad in Commander if you're focused around the discard deck. Maybe something like Tiny Bones as your Commander. But still, definitely not a card I would want to pick towards the beginning of a pack in Limited. Rin Wingmare, 2 and a white, Pegasus, 2/1, flying. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast, and that includes yours, so you have to keep that in mind. It is a double-edged sword. It's an interesting concept in Limited. The problem is you really... One additional mana can, depending on who you're playing, can screw over their game plans, especially if they're struggling to hit their lands. It is situational, and again, it does affect yourself, so it can be a double-edged sword. Standard play, honestly, I don't think it's going to see standard play unless there is a lockdown style deck that does develop. At the moment, there isn't really anything along those lines. It's more just typical control. But I could see this seeing play in kind of a lockdown style deck, but as it stands, there really isn't one. I think Commander decks that are playing what they call stacks or a lockdown style deck probably won't mind it. But the fact that it does hurt yourself makes it less appealing because of that. And again, we have Seasoned Hollowblade. And we have our second mythic, Discontinuity. 3 blue, 3 additional, instant. As long as it's your turn, the spell casts 2 blue, 2 colorless less to cast. End the turn. So, if you're new to the game, this card is going to look really weird to you. You're going to, like, why do you want to pay so much to end the turn? So when you end the turn, you exile all spells and abilities from the stack. You know how I was talking about the stack earlier? Well, when you end the turn, if there are still things waiting to resolve on the stack, they just disappear. The player whose turn it is discards down to their maximum hindsight, damage wears off, and this turn until end of turn effects end. So I think it has a lot more. It's definitely a great card in Commander. Ending the turn can be very powerful, and more often than not, if you're playing blue, you're probably going to have the potential to cast this on your opponent's turns more often than on your own. But I think this might definitely limited. I don't know, limited. I haven't really, because of the fact it's a mythic, you don't often see it. I think it would be interesting in mythic, but again, it's a 6 CMC card unless it's on your turn. There's often, especially because of how limited resources tend to be in draft, you're probably not going to be ending your turn that often. So it's probably going to sit in your hand till turn 6. Now, being able to end your opponent's turn at an instant is hilarious and frustrating for your opponent. Standard, I could see blue devotion decks work around this as a card to kind of get maybe against like a more aggressive deck, and basically you hold up the open mana and you basically prevent an entire turn worth of damage after getting there's this mono blue devotion deck that uses Nyx Lotus, and Nyx Lotus is a card that generates mana based on the devotion of a color on the board. And I think there's potential for this and that as maybe a sideboard option for a card for against decks that you're wanting to just prevent them from hitting their combat. Not a bad mythic. Honestly, the mythics in this set I'm always happy to pull. Okay, let's keep going. Excuse me. I might take a break here to get some water in a bit. Okay, token, land, rare. 3 uncommons and a rare on top. Okay, we have Swift Response, Chandra's Magmut, Grasp of Darkness, Garruk's Gorehorn, Walking Corpse, Pride Malkin, Burn Bright, Keen Glidemaster, Staunch Shieldmate, Bone Pit Brew. Our first uncommon is Tavern Swindler, a black and an additional, human rogue 2/2. Tap it, pay 3 life, flip a coin. If you win the flip, you gain 6 life. RNG. It's literally RNG. It's fun to see in limited when it goes off. This is probably never going to see standard play unless there's some card that comes out that lets you affect the results of coin flips, which is probably not going to happen. I think definitely in Commander, because you start with such a huge life total, I think people won't mind it in a black-white life gain deck. But again, it's super RNG, so, take it as it is. Lore Scale Quaddle. Green-blue additional, Snake, 2/2. Whenever you draw a card, you put a 1/1 counter on Lore Scale Quaddle. Great uncommon. Blue loves to draw cards. Green loves 1/1 counters. There's a lot of ways this card can get very easily out of hand, especially in a limited game. And especially if you're able, you have a Pride Malkin in the field and lets you, and then this gains trample as long as it has a counter on it. And it's going to get stronger every turn at the minimum. And then if you draw cards on top of that, it's just going to get out of hand. So if your opponent doesn't have an answer to this, it gets out of hand fast. Honestly, I could see this card having standard potential. In what deck? I'm not sure, but I definitely is strong enough to be played in standard. And we have Angelic Ascension. White and additional, instant. Exile target creature, planeswalker, its controller creates a 4/4 white angel creature token flying. I love this card in limited. It can get rid of your opponent's massive threats. It does make a 4/4, but compared to getting hit in the face with a 7/7, it's not always the worst choice. And it lets you exile your own creatures or planeswalker to make a 4/4 angel that you can use to block creatures or get the final bit of damage you need to hit over their creatures to win the game. Love this card. I think it has some standard potential in white. Maybe a white weenies deck or a deck focused around making angels. I've seen a couple videos around that. I think it's a fun card overall. And we have Shacklegeist, blue and additional 2/2 spirit, flying. Shacklegeist can only block creatures with flying. Tap 2 untapped spirits you control. Tap target creature you don't control. I'm kind of iffy on this card. People don't really like it for pack 1, pick 1 draft. There's like maybe 2 other spirits in the set. I think if you're playing a deck that is Spirit Tribal, maybe in Commander, maybe in Standard, although a lot of those spirits are going to be rotating out because a lot of them are from War of the Spark and Ravnica. And there's always a couple, in every set, but, it's very specific. You can't use it to block anything except other creatures flying. Not especially the more common decks. Flying isn't very common in terms of creatures. It's non-red mono, red aggro. Teamer Clover there's a bit, but yeah, it's an iffy card. Unless there's some really powerful, unless someone comes up with a really strong deck with Spirit Tribal, I don't think this is going to see standard play. Fun in Commander if you're building a Spirit Tribal deck. Limited, not bad pickup, but it's a 2/2 for 2 that flies. And if you happen to have other spirits, you can tap down target creature you don't control. It's probably not the best pick one out of the pack that you could ask for. I'm going to pause the video here, and I'm going to go take a break, get some water, clear my throat. Be back in a bit. Hey everybody, I'm back after my little break. Needed to get up, stretch, grab some water. Brought my dog up. She's gonna be watching us. So if you hear some sounds in the background, that's probably her. Otherwise, let's keep getting to cracking some packs. So far we've pulled 2 Mythics out of this box, not bad. And we still have about half the box left to go. Probably a little bit more than half. I'm gonna try to go a little bit faster. Maybe... But as we hit more of the uncommons, and maybe even some of the rares that we've already seen, I'll probably just glide right over those. So, let's get cracking. Okay, token, land, rare, 3 uncommons. Oop. I double checked, and it looks like we have a foil that's screwing things up here. So let me get that fixed. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. So first common is going to be a Spellgorger Weird, Cage Zombie, Sky Scanner, Rousing Reed, Duress, Ornery Dilophosaur, Sanguine Indulgence, Rambunctious Mutt, Burn Bright, and our foil for the pack is a foil Finishing Blow. Our first uncommon is Archfiend's Vessel. Our second uncommon is Sanctum of Shattered Heights. Our third uncommon is Wildwood Scourge. And the rare / mythic is our Terror of the Peaks. 2 red, 3 additional, 5/4 dragon. Flying. Oop, hit the camera there. Sorry about that. Spells your opponents cast a target Terror of the Peaks costs an additional 3 life to cast. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that target's power to any target. This is a great red mythic. 5 CMC, 5/4 flying. Already really great. Its abilities make it even better. It's hard to get rid of. You have to pay 3 life to even target this with when your opponent targets it with something that they're casting. So unfortunately, it doesn't stop abilities from like say tapping it down, like that a creature might have, but it won't. It's going to be a lot harder for your opponent to remove it from cards out of their hand. It can still die, but they have to give up 3 life for it, and that payoff makes it a lot better. And it sits on the board, and as you just cast your creatures, it just keeps on hitting. They have to deal with it, no matter what. I think it's a great red mythic. I've seen people try to making decks for standard. I think it will definitely see standard play. Great and limited, great limited bomb, honestly. This is your pack 1, or even your pack 3, definitely grab it. And I definitely think it will see standard play. Token, land, rare, 3 uncommons, and rare in the back. Okay. Oh, we have, yep, looks like we have a uncommon in the front, so we have another foil. Quite a few foils. So, I fixed that. Let's start. Sabertooth Mauler, Teferi's Protege, Grasp of Darkness, Wall of Ruins, Ranger's Guile, Alchemist's Gift, Library Larcenist, Revitalize, Hobble Fiend. And here's our first uncommon, Teferi's Tutelage, 2 and a blue, enchantment. When this card enters the battlefield, you draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards. This is a great enchantment in blue. Blue loves mill. This is great for mill decks. I know a lot of people were happy to see this. I have died to this card a couple times in draft already. And I think it will probably see standard play if mill were to become an archetype that has enough cards to make a competitive shell. And this is probably going to be one of the cards in those shell. I think as it stands, there's not quite enough support for mill, especially with after rotation. And we lose some of the key mill pieces that people were playing from the Ravnica and War of the Spark stuff. But if there is a mill deck, this is definitely most likely going to be in it. And there's quite a lot of blue cards as it stands after rotation that are focused on drawing you a lot of cards. So you might even see just, hey, I draw half my deck, you draw your whole deck. Shenanigans like that. We have Tempered Veteran, 1 and a white, 1/2 Human Knight. Pay 1, tap it. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature with a 1/1 counter on it. 4 and 2 white, tap it. Put a 1/1 counter target on target creature. I love this card in limited. White has a lot of 1/1 counter focus on it in the set. Seer Cat, for example. A lot of the cards, there's a lot of great white cards for limited in the set that are focused on giving 1/1 counters. I love to pick this up when I'm in white. And even late game, you can still put 1/1 counters on things new. I prefer to target things that already have 1/1 counters, make them more of a threat. Standard play, I honestly don't think it's going to see play. It's a little slow. And I think the people would just rather play a lot of instant sorcery stuff out of their hand that can get counters on them faster. But who knows? Maybe if the right deck comes along. But I think it's a great limited pick if you're in white and you have a focus on 1/1 counters. Maybe even in green, you know? Oh, missed a card there. We have Liliana's Devotee, 2 and a black, Human Warlock, 2/3. Zombies you control get +1/+0. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you may pay 1 and a black. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Zombie Lord. I'm pretty happy with this card. It's great and limited. Creatures are always going to be dying. It's cheap enough to make a 2/2 zombie. There's a decent amount of zombies in this set, but I think standard, if people want to make a zombie deck, they definitely can, and this is probably going to be a card in it. Probably a bit slow to be super competitive, but, you know, definitely great. And I think a lot of people will like to use this card, for example, in, say, a zombie-themed commander deck. There have certainly been zombie lords before, and there will probably be zombie lords in future sets. But for this set, I think it's a great uncommon. Not a bad pick. And our rare for the pack is a Temple of Malady. I'm glad they reprinted the temples, the dual color temples that are going to be rotating out when the, core. So these temples, I believe, are going to be rotating out with core 19 going out. Half of the dual temples were released in Theros, half of them were released in core 19. And the fact that they reprinted these in core 20, not core 19, shows that they want to keep dual lands in the format. Not necessarily the shock lands from the Ravnica sets, but these tap lands are the next best thing outside the tricolored cycling lands from Ikoria. It shows that Wizards really does want the standard format to have access to these kinds of land cards for a competitive scene, compared to just using, like, say, those, because scrying is way better than just gaining 1 life. And that's why this is rare, and that, for example, the Scoured Barrens is a common. So being able to set your top deck is great. And, oh, look at this. We got a rare foil. Containment Priest, 1 and a white. Human Cleric 2/2, flash. If a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile instead. This is great sideboard tech for spells for decks that like to cast stuff from zones other than your hand. Temur Clover, for example. When you play an adventure card to benefit off of Clover, if you use the adventure aspect of it, it goes into technically exile, but it's its own zone of exile in a sense, where it's gone on an adventure. And then you can cast a creature from that zone. With this on the field, you basically stop that from happening. Same thing comes from creatures coming directly from grave, casting from grave. Mainly the mechanic from the Theros set, where you pay mana cost, exile the certain amount of cards from your grave to cast a creature spell from grave to the field. This is a great answer. I'm glad they printed it, and I think it's definitely going to see standard play in decks that play white. Unfortunately, a lot of decks aren't playing white, and that's why you're not already seeing this currently in this standard format. In the few decks that do play white, this is definitely going to be a sideboard staple. Okay, on to the next pack here. Okay, token, land, rare, 3 uncommons, and rare in the back. Okay. We've got our first common is a Turret Ogre. It's a Fury's protege. Gonna move my chair here. Sorry. Skeleton Archer, Wall of Runes, Portcullis Vine, Fetid Imp, Celestial Enforcer, Turn to Slag, Lofty Denial, Fate of Resistance, and our first uncommon is Witch's Cauldron. 1 black artifact, pay 1 and a black, tap it, sack a creature, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Not bad. You have to have a lot of creatures to benefit from the effect. It's slow, not bad in limited. Definitely, probably not going to see in a standard play. In sacrifice decks, as it stands, there's a lot faster sacrifice methods that aren't just a one-time use. Dreadlurker, I think it's a Pharaoh's card. You sack it, you get to scry 1. You sack a creature, sack 1. As I said, standard is effects, as much being able to benefit from your effects as much as possible at a fairly fast speed. Cute card, not bad limited, but you have to have a deck that can benefit from sacking creatures, and probably being able to recur them as well. No, I mixed up my piles. Oh no. Okay. Let me fix all those first. Nice, so 3 mythics. Okay. Our next uncommon is Watcher of the Spheres, white and a blue. Bird Wizard, 2/2, flying. Creature spells with flying you cast cost 1 less to cast, and whenever another creature with flying enters the battlefield under your control, this card gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Blue-white flyers. They're going to want to play this card. They will play this card in Standard and in Limited. You're in those colors. You have those mechanics. Great, go for it. Standard, there's always going to be some kind of flyer deck, typically in these two colors. Some of the really good pieces are going to be rotating out, such as Imperium Eagle, or Empyrean Eagle, I believe. But there's always going to be flying creatures in every set, mostly in blue, mostly in white. And I think you'll definitely see people playing blue-white flyers. We have Basri's Solidarity, 1 in a white sorcery. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. This is what I was talking about getting 1/1 counters at a faster speed for more benefit. This is 2 CMC, sorcery, so it's only on your turn, but you put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Compared to the Tempered Veteran, where it's you add an additional counter to something that's already on the field after having casted the creature, waiting a turn, and then paying into the ability to then tap the creature to add another. This is so much better in terms of power. Great card. We'll probably see Standard play in specific deck archetypes such as White Weenie and probably 1/1 counter matters decks. But great card overall. Love to see it in Draft. It's always a great boost to your lineup in White. Even if you're not focused on 1/1 counters, it's just a great spell. And our rare is Feline Sovereign. Greed into additional cat with 2/3. Other cats you control get +1/+1 and have protection from dogs. Whenever one or more cats you control deals combat damage to a player, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment that players controls. I love the card. The theming of the card is great, on point. They made an effort in this set to include cat and dog creatures, especially considering that their buy box promo was written in Siri. I would say in Standard, in Draft, it's probably a bit harder to build a cat tribal deck. There's not as many as you would think. And even in Dogs, there's not quite as many to warrant making just a dog tribal deck in Draft. You can try, a bit hard, but you can do it. I think this will see Standard play for people running those dog and cat tribal decks. There have been times in the past where cat tribal has been fairly powerful. Cats is a more common creature type than dogs in terms of prints of creatures. And as it stands currently before rotation, there are cats that are fairly strong. And so I think in the right deck, this will see Standard play. Even if you don't have any cats in Draft, this is still a great card because if you can get hits in with this, then it lets you remove artifacts and enchantments, which is always great. Overall, I think it's a really fun rare. Okay, we got token. Oh, sorry, you're getting a great shot on my arm there. Land, and we got the rare, and we got 3 uncommons to the back, and the rare on top. Oh, we got an uncommon, so that means we have a holo in this pack. So let me just sneak this behind, and let's get back to this. Okay. First uncommon, Gnarled Sage. Basri's Acolyte. Anointed Chorister. Return to Nature. Garruk's Gorehorn. Village Rites. Celestial Enforcer. Onaki Ogre. Capture Spear. And our first uncommon, which you got a glimpse of earlier, Fierce Empath. Green and 2 additional, Elf 1/1. When this card enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost 6 or greater, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. This is a great card in Draft. It's very easy to get out the big, high-costing CMC creatures late game. Searching them out. Green loves to ramp, so it's feasible to get out a CMC 6 on turn 5 or 4. Standard-wise, who knows? this could see standard play. As it is, there's a lot better options in terms of ramp and just card draw in general. I think commander decks will definitely won't mind to have this card in there to help search out their key pieces late game. Fun card. If you're in green, you have big creatures, definitely a card worth picking up in draft. We have Tormod's Crypt, 0 casting cost artifact. Tap it, sacrifice Tormod Crypts, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. This is a great commander staple. A lot of commander decks will use their graveyard as resources, and even other opponents' graveyards as resources. So it's always great to have the option of being able to remove those resources from the game. I think this is probably going to see some sideboard play in Standard. There's quite a few decks as it currently stands that like having cards in the graveyard and having cards recur from the graveyard. I think in draft it's not a bad pickup. It's I mean, definitely for its usability in other formats, it's not bad. Probably definitely not a pick 1, but maybe a pick 2 just to get it. Not bad. Oh, gosh. Can stop revealing the cards ahead of time. And we have our last uncommon, which is Sanctum of Tranquil Light. This is the white Shrine of the Cycle. You pay 5 and a white, tap target creature with this ability, costs 1 less to activate for each shrine you control. Probably the worst shrine out of all 5. That's all I'm going to say about it, and that's what I'm going to leave it at. And our foil is Basri's Solidarity. Pretty nice foil. I like it. And our rare for the pack is Speaker of the Heavens, 1 white, Human Cleric 1/1, Vigilance Lifelink. Tap it, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. Activate this ability only if you have at least 7 life more than your starting life total, and only anytime you could cast a sorcery. The reason why they have this wording is that there was a card in the past. It was something Felidar. And it had the text that if you had above 20 life, it had a certain effect trigger or it was more powerful. And the fact is that in Standard, because you start with 40 life, that means that that would always be the case most of the time when you casted the card, because of the fact it was such a low CMC cost. And they had this stipulation in there to prevent that situation from being able to turn to tap this, make a 4/4 angel in Commander, which I think is great. And that shows that Wizards is very aware of their formats and that they are designing cards to be played in those formats, across the different formats. I've seen people use this in Standard. I think in Draft it's a great pack 1, pick 1. It's a 1/1. It's a 1-drop. There's not too many great 1-drops for your curves in terms of Draft. You're able to pump this, make it stronger. Vigilance Lifelink, always great combination. And especially if you're in white and doing a lot of life gain shenanigans, it makes you 4/4 angels, which is always a good thing. Really great rare. Really happy to see it. Okay, token lands. 3 rare, 3 uncommons. Rare. Oh, and let me fix that real quick. Looks like we have another foil. So let's see what we got. We have Infernal Scarring as our first common. Basri's Acolyte again. Gnarled Sage. Drowsing Pteranodon. Liliana Stewart. Cancel. Secure the Scene. Destructive Tampering. Read the Tides. Our first uncommon is Soul Seer. Red and 2 additional instant. It deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. That permanent loses indestructible until end of turn. Great pickup in Limited. I think this will definitely see some sideboard play in Standard when the current popular forms of removal rotate out. The fact it gets rid of Indestructible is really nice because it gets around a lot of the white combat tricks, especially in Limited Draft, that tend to give cards Indestructible. I think it's a really good piece of red removal. Kite Sail Freebooter. Black and an additional. Human Pirate 1/2 Flying. When this card enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. Exile that card until this card leaves the battlefield. Great uncommon, great in draft for black. I think this will probably see some standard play in black. Being able to cherry pick a card out of your opponent's hand, even though it has to be a non-creature, I think in the right decks it can really hinder an opponent. In fact, it comes out on turn 2, helps with that. You get a choice out of your opponent's hand, pretty full hand. Not 7 cards, but probably going to be closer to 6. Can't complain about this. Honestly, it's a great card overall. Our next uncommon is Goreman. 2 black, 4 additional, demon 5/5. As additional cost to cast a spell, sack a creature, flying, trample. When this card enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Solid late game card for draft. The sacrifice a creature as part of this cost sucks, especially if this card were to get countered. You sack a creature, you pay the mana, you don't get any benefit from it. If you get this to hit, it can hit pretty hard, forcing your opponent to sacrifice a creature when it enters the battlefield. It can be tough, it can hurt them, especially if they have a smaller field. I think it's a decent card for draft. Probably never going to see standard play. Too slow. And our foil is Shipwreck Dowser. Uncommon, 2 blue, 3 additional, 3/3 Merfolk Wizard. Has Prowess, which is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. When this card enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to the hand. Great card in blue. The fact that it recurs an instant or sorcery spell is great. The Prowess helps. I think it's a great card in Limited. People will probably want to play this in some kind of Merfolk tribal deck in Commander. And probably just in blue in general, just to recur some of the really powerful instants and sorceries. Standard play, probably not going to see it. I think the 5 CMC is probably the big hindrance to it. And there are some other cards that can recur spells and sorceries, and mainly Mystic Sanctuary, which is a common land from Throne of Eldraine. And as it stands, because you're playing multiple copies of a lot of cards, it's not a big deal if you lose maybe 1 or 2 of a certain card that you need, especially if you're running 4 copies of it. I think in Limited, this is a really great uncommon, and I think in Commander, people are going to want to play it. And our rare is a Temple of Mystery. This is the blue-green temple out of this cycle. A ETB Scry 1, tap it for green or blue. Okay, let's keep going. We have Dub, Swift Response, Shock, always a great reprint, Track Down, Blood Glutton, Igneous Cur, Opt, Makeshift Battalion, Sure Strike, and we have Kitesail Freebooter again as our first uncommon. Second uncommon is Soul Seer, and third uncommon is Kyrian Dryad. We've seen all 3 of those so far. Our rare is a Brash Taunter, which is always, as I talked about earlier, not a bad rare to get. And we do have a little something extra. We have a full art Scavenging Ooze. This is a great card, and I'm glad I got the extended border version of this, the alternate art extended border. Green and additional, Ooze, 2/2. Pay green, exile target creature from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, put a 1/1 counter on Scavenging Ooze and you gain 1 life. This is a super strong card. It is already currently seeing a lot of standard play in any deck, in a lot of decks that are playing green. It's really strong. It can be tough to kill it with just standard damage removal. You would prefer to exile it or force your opponent to, or destroy the creature outright. because the fact that it can pump itself for 1 by exiling a card out of any graveyard, as long as there's a creature card, is amazing. And this can easily get out of hand if you don't have a quick answer for it. So I am really happy to get this, and if I play green, this will probably be in that deck. Speaking of ooze, Wizards just announced, I think it actually ends tonight, tonight being the 19th, they recently announced a new secret lair called Slime Time. And I took a look at it, love the art of it. I think it's a really interesting set. Not really my style of cards. I think I'm really glad that Wizards is going out of their way to try out these different alternate art card styles, and getting different art into the game. And I have picked up the Year of the Rat Secret Lair, and I loved it. I don't think though that I'm going to personally get it myself, but I think it's a really interesting one, and I can't wait to see somebody lose a game to those ooze cards. I think I'm going to actually just put this down here with the mythics. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to crack this set of, I don't want the fingernails. Let's see. I should probably put those in some sleeves right now before I forget. I probably had people yelling at me for almost the entire video at this point to put those cards in sleeves, you idiot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and you all get to see the lovely Dragon Statue of Liberty art from the Dragon Shield guy, from the guys over at Dragon Shield. Wow, these are super creased. Look at that. Usually I've never had Dragon Shields have that issue, but probably once we put the cards in, it'll straighten right out. Yep, look at that Flazzle board. So let's put these in there real quick. I'll keep a little pile of these off to the side for now. Probably go through and grab those. Let's see. Let's go through and grab that Zuza. Oh, where is it? And that Containment Priest. Let's throw those in sleeves too. Sorry about this little intermission here, but yeah, so, and then what I'll do is I'll probably just go do a quick glance over some of the better pulls out of this set, and okay. Let's keep going. We're getting down to our last 12, oh, no, make that 15, I think this is pack number 16. Or 16 till the end here, so I think we've actually officially hit the halfway point of this box, which I think in a booster there's 32 packs. Ugh. So we got a ways to go. I'll probably split this into maybe 2 or 3 parts, depending, honestly. Okay, so we got the token, we got the land. And let's just... Okay, here we go. Our first card is Dub, Sabertooth Mauler, Shock, Roman Ghostlight, Snare Spinner, Thallid, Tome Anima, Defiant Strike, Wanaki Ogre, and our first uncommon is Canopy Stalker. 3 and a green, cat 4/2. Canopy Stalker must be blocked if able. When this creature dies, you gain 1 life for each creature that died this turn. Interesting piece and limited. The the fact that it has to be blocked can be useful if you're trying to get around certain creatures. If your opponent has maybe one big creature, and you want to have your higher hitting stuff get the damage through. Standard play, I don't think it's going to see standard play. I think it's just a bit too slow and a bit too weak with the 2 toughness to really warrant it. There's a lot more powerful things you can be casting on turn 3 to gain more benefit from than this card. Eliminate. 1 in black. Destroy target creature planeswalker with converted mana cost 3 or less. Nice piece of black removal. It is specific and it has to be CMC 3, but you can cast this on turn 2 going first against your opponent, and it can be annoying, you know. I think it's a good piece of black removal. We'll probably see sideboard play in standard. And we have Warden of the Woods again. We already talked about him earlier. And we have a foil Sure Strike, and we have Karavek the Spiteful. 2 black, 2 additional. Legendary creature, human warlock, 3/2. Other creatures get -1/-1. I thought this was an interesting card. I think it's annoying. It's not as strong as it could be. And the fact that it's all other creatures and not just your opponents makes it a lot less appealing. Definitely not going to... If people make this as their commander for commander, props to them. But there are much better commanders that can do very similar things that are better. I could see this maybe being part of the 99, maybe. And I definitely think that this is not going to be seeing any form of standard play. You having fun back there, Rayma? Yeah, who's my good girl? Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to do a little video of you at some point. Yeah, good girl. I'll have to get a dog camera. Maybe whenever I decide to, if this gets popular enough, who knows, maybe I'll start live streaming my pack openings. Then I'll have a dog cam. Okay, so we got the token, we got that, got the, okay, here we go. Acolyte, Sage, Ogre, Village Rites, Dilophosaur, Indulgence, Megalodon, Concordia Pegasus, and Brute. Our first uncommon is going to be Tempered Veteran again. And this is the black shrine. This is the black shrine out of the cycle, Sanctum Stonefangs. Black and 1. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life where X is the number of shrines you control. Not a bad pickup in black draft. The effect can be annoying. It sets a timer on the game. Again, shrines are not going to be seeing competitive standard play. And we have Bolt Hound again. And we do have another foil of a Vryn Wingmare. And here is our 4th mythic out of this box, and it's a Terror of the Peaks. So pulling, I've never really, you don't often get the same mythic out of the same box. 2 copies of the same mythic, I mean. So not a bad mythic. Wish it was one of the other mythics, but still not bad. It gets me towards having a full play set of them, which is always a good thing. Okay. And hopefully we get lucky. We'll maybe be able to pull one more. I think average in box is typically 4 to 5, I would say. I'm glad I've at least hit the average for the box so far. So far, enough. Been pretty good. Nothing crazy. Teferi is probably the mythic that everybody's hoping to pull just because it's probably the more expensive one of the ones currently available. And the fact that it has like 6 different alternate card arts is ridiculous. Or in this case, frames. Okay, we have Silent Dart, Hunter's Edge, Infernal Scarring, Mistral Singer, Colossal Dreadmaw, Gloom Sower, Rambunctious Mutt, Burn Bright, frantic inventory, Feat of Resistance. Our first uncommon is Palladium Mirror. 3 colorless artifact creature mirror. 2/2. Tap it, generate 2 colorless. Not a bad pickup in limited. It's a artifact creature. It's a mana dork for 2 colorless mana. It can ramp you up faster. It comes down turn 3, which can be problematic, but it definitely gets you ahead in terms of mana. The fact that it's colorless can be limiting at the worst of times. Who knows? This might potentially see some play. Maybe again, artifact creature deck comes in, becomes popular. Helps ramp you into your big stuff a little bit faster. Not a bad and it is a reprint, so it's not a bad reprint at that. And I think people do play this as a mana dork in Commander, so it's also a good pickup for that. We have Warden of the Woods again, and another Leafkin Avenger. And we have Temple of Epiphany. This is the which is the red and blue temple out of the cycle. So 3 temples so far, and those are standard staples, so they're always good to pull. Okay, token, land, and uncommons. Okay. Boarded Battlements. Masked Blackguard. Frost Breath. Run Afoul. Silent Dart. Scorching Dragonfire. Track Down. Crypt Lurker. And Hobble Fiends. And Read the Tides. And our first uncommon is Tormod's Crypt. Talked about that earlier. And Sanctum. A terrible, terrible uncommon. And Silver Moat Ghoul. Black and 2 additional, zombie vampire 3/1. At beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, return Silver Moat Ghoul from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Pay 1 in black, sacrifice this card, draw a card. I love this card for draft. If you can build a black-white life gain deck, this is a great uncommon to get for it. Gets you card draw. It counts as a creature dying trigger for stuff like I don't know, Blood Ursa. I want to say Blood Ursa is in this set, but it probably isn't. But there are lots of cards that gain you life when creatures die. And it's a 3/1, and it can keep coming back. And I love this for limited. Probably a bit slow for standard, but again, if you get the right kind of black-white life, probably some kind of aristocrat-style deck, this will probably be a card that's being run in them. And our rare is Pack Leader, white and a colorless dog for 2/2. I will come back to that. My little girl wants out of the room. I guess she's had enough of me talking to myself for the last hour and a half or 40 minutes. So I'm going to go let her back downstairs. So I'm just going to pause the video and I'll be back in a bit. Okay, I'm back. I took the opportunity to drink some water and help my throat is honestly getting sore from this. I'm probably going to have to have some lozenges at work tomorrow. Anyways, our next pack here is, our next rare is Pack Leader. I started talking about this a little bit. White and additional, 2/2, a dog. Other dogs you control get +1/+1. Whenever Pack Leader attacks, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn to dogs you control. It's a dog lord, buffs all your dogs, makes them indestructible to end a turn, or to at least combat damage, which is mostly indestructible. They still die to wipes or removal, but at least in terms of combat, you'll have the advantage. If you can build a dog deck, great. This is definitely a card to include. And you probably noticed, but my mat is actually the alternate art version of Pack Leader that you get out of the Core 2021 bundles, which are the 10 booster pack bundles that come with the big life countdown die. And they come with the Pack Leader alternate art promo. As you can tell, I'm very much so a dog person. Okay, just arranging the cards here. Okay, let's. Okay, same as before. We got a Shock, Ghost Light, Infernal Scarring, Liliana Stewart, Colossal Dreadmaw, Onaki Ogre, Capture Sphere, Rambunctious Mutt, Burn Bright, Jeskai Elder, Invigorating Surge, Fierce Empath, Demonic. Oh God, I just slammed through those. Jeez, Louise. Okay, sorry about that. I got ahead of myself there. Let's talk about the uncommons. Jeskai Elder. Blue and additional. A human monk 1/2. Prowess. Whenever this card deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Not bad pickup in draft. Lets you, if you get hits in with it, it lets you loot cards in your hand, which is the drawing and discarding a card. I don't think it's going to see standard play. It's just a little lacking in terms of being standard competitive. Okay, next uncommon we have is Invigorating Surge. 2 and a green, instant. Put a 1/1 counter target creature you control, then double the number of 1/1 counters on that creature. This card can get out of hand. You target something like that Vastwood Hydra from earlier. Oh, if your opponents have removal, they're probably dead. Great pickup in green. This might see standard play in the 1/1 counter focused deck. As it stands, there isn't really that kind of archetype in the format at the moment, but it's not bad. And I think definitely a lot of people like this for commander decks, for sure. Any deck that is based around 1/1 counters will like this card. And we have Fierce Empath again. We have Demonic Embrace. 2 black and additional enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchant creature has +3/+1, has flying. It is a demon in addition to its other types. You may cast Demonic Embrace from your grave by paying 3 life and discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs. Great pickup in limited. It can be annoying to deal with it. You have to exile it or else this card is going to keep coming back throughout the game. I think I've seen people play this in standard. It's a solid card to get to fly over people's heads for damage, and the fact you reconcurred from grave, as I said, makes it a lot better. And yeah, so the only real answer to this is to exile it, and typically you want to exile the creature it's getting attached to rather than the enchantment itself, as typically the creature oftentimes is the more troubling one, and by targeting the creature, you technically get rid of both cards or anything attached to the creature, enchantment-wise, off the field. Unfortunately, what's so great about this is that it keeps coming back, which can be frustrating to deal with as a player. And we have a Hooded Blightfang as our foil. We have another foil rare. Black and 2 additional, Snake 1/4 Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control with Death Touch attacks, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. Whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals damage to a Planeswalker, destroy that Planeswalker. I think this is a great card. Death Touch Tribal can certainly be a thing. It's great CMC, great power toughness line, especially for Death Touch creature. It kills most low to the ground things that are running into it. Your opponent really won't want to swing his low to the ground creatures at this. And it slowly does put a timer on the board when you attack with your own Death Touch creatures. And what's great is that it's easier for you to make contact. If you hit a Planeswalker with one of your Death Touch creatures, you kill it, which is amazing. And I know that those cards, the cards that give creatures you control Death Touch to Planeswalkers, at least with I think there was the Vraska Planeswalker card back from Ravnica that had one of her abilities making a I think one of her statics was to give things Death Touch to creatures to Planeswalkers. Sorry, gave creatures that have Death Touch to hit Planeswalkers die, or wording. When you hit a Planeswalker with a creature you control that has Death Touch, they would die as if they were a creature. Was very powerful in those decks. So I think this will definitely see some standard play, I think, in the right style decks. And this is always a great pickup in Limited. It can be very powerful, and there's quite a few cards in the set that are Death Touch focused. So let's just throw that in a sleeve real quick. Okay, token, land, and here we are. We've got Prismite, Furor the Bidden, Llanowar Visionary, Warded Battlements, Masked Blackguard, Ranger's Guile, Gift, Igneous Cur, Opt, Makeshift Battalion, and we have Jeskai Elder as our first uncommon. Oh, sorry. Invigorating Surge again, that's interesting. And we have Twin Blade Assassins. 3, a black and a green, Elf Assassin 5/4. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, draw a card. I think this is a solid pickup in Limited. Bit slow for standard play. Might see I don't know if it's going to see standard play. Maybe in the right, as I said, if you have the right deck, any card is theoretically standard competitive. Theoretically. I think there's a lot better options that have faster effects, and in standard, as I said, the faster you can benefit from a card, the better. Because let's say you play this on turn 5, it hits the field, your opponent impromptly kills it. You spent your mana, you played a card, it dies, you know. But I think in Limited, it's a great pickup if you're in those colors. And our rare is Temple of Triumph. And this is the Boros temple out of the cycle, which is the red-white. We've had quite a few temples, which I'm not unhappy about. The temples are always nice, and not everybody is going to have a full cycle at this, especially newer players. I think newer players should definitely focus on trying to get a playset of the cycles, of the temple cycle, just because it will help them with their color fixing when they're building decks. Okay, token, land, and 3 uncommons. Okay, Life Goes On, Swooper, the Crab, Legion's Judgment, Pitchburn Devils, Trackdown, Blood Glutton, Concordia Pegasus, Bone Pit Brute, Voldalian Arcanist, and our first uncommon is Bad Deal. We have a Vryn Windmare again, and we have another Tolarian Kraken. And our rare is Baron Tolarian Archmage, which I'm actually happy to see. There's a deck that I want to make that needs a playset of this card. Okay, let's keep going. We've got 5 packs left. Nice. Okay, token, land, and 3 additional. Okay. Swooper, Scanner, Arsonist, Reed. So you can tell I'm probably getting a bit tired, so I'm trying to hurry through this as fast as I can at this point. Radiant Fountain, Gloom Sower, Garruk Scorehorn, Frantic Inventory, Feet of Resistance, Goblin Wizardry, and our first uncommon is Cultivate. As I said, great card, definitely going to be wanting to have a playset of it. Any deck that plays green and Commander is going to want a copy of this card. Hellkite Punisher again, and first Carrion Grub we pulled out of this. Black and 3, Insect 0/5. Carrion Grub gets +X/+0, or X is the greatest power among creatures cards in your graveyard. When Carrion Grub enters the battlefield, mill 4 cards. This is a great pickup in Limited, especially if you have something like Gloom Sowers in your deck. This could potentially be an 8/5, and potentially higher depending on what kind of deck you make. Who knows? This could see standard play in a self mill deck maybe. But unfortunately, it dies fairly easily to removal. The fact that it mills yourself for 4 cards helps, especially if you're trying to put cards into your graveyard to use as fuel for other effects. Needs the right deck, but I think it has the be power enough and has enough benefit when as it's played to warrant being a standard playable card. And our rare is a Temple of Silence. Jeez, I feel like we've pulled almost all the temples so far. Let's take a look. We have Temple of Silence, Temple of Triumph, Temple. I think I have pulled... Well, what do you know? I've pulled the entire cycle of temples out of this booster so far. That is crazy. If you're wondering why the cycle is only 5 cards, it's because the other 5 dual-colored temples are in the Theros Beyond Death set. And those are, let's see, red-green, white-blue, red-green, black-blue, and green-white. Yeah. Crazy. Okay, let's see what we got. Let's see, Reed, Fountain, Run Afoul, Pitchburn Devil, Legion's Judgment, Colossal Dreadmaw, Rise Again, Valorous Steed, Thrill of Possibility, and Capture Sphere. We have Light of Promise as our first uncommon, and we have Avon Gagglemaster, which is an uncommon we haven't seen yet. 2 white, 3 additional, Bird Warrior, 4/3 with flying. When this card enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life for each creature you control with flying. It's neat and limited, especially if you're drafting flying creatures. It gains you life. I think flying decks are going to play this card, especially if you're doing blue and white. Because by turn 5, you have the potential to, if you don't lose any of your creatures, you have the potential to gain up to 10 life if you're able to get a creature on the field every turn. Which I think is possible. There's probably a 1-drop flyer that's fairly easy to get on turn 1. But that's if you hit all 5 land drops up until then, and it's possible. But standard play, it's probably just in Flyers decks, in honesty. I don't think it has potential for anything else. Waker of Waves, and another Hooded Blightfang. Okay, third, nope, I got 4 packs left. Okay, double-sided token, land, and 3 uncommons. Okay, we have Minstrel Singer, Shock, Scarring, Mauler, Setessan Training, Lurker, Alpine Watchdog, Crash Through, and Keen Glidemaster, and Staunch Shieldmate. And our first uncommon is Griffin Eyrie, Chrome Replicator, and a Gormand. And our rare is Solemn Simulacrum, 4 colorless, Golem artifact creature 2/2. When this card enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land, put it into the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. When this card dies, you may draw a card. Great card. This is definitely going to see standard play. People love it in Commander. It's kind of sucks to get this as your pack 1 pick 1 because of the fact it's colorless and doesn't really help you steer you into any specific color, but it's great to have anyways. This card is going to have value. It ramps you when it comes into play. It's a 2/2 chump blocker, and when it dies, it draws you a card. Really, really great. The forward CMC is high, but the upsides you get warrant it being played. As I said, every card has its right decks and its wrong decks, but this will probably see standard play until this gets rotated. I think it's a great card, and you'll definitely be seeing it in a lot of decks in the future. And also, it's a commander staple, so this is your chance to get a copy for fairly cheap. Okay, let's see. Okay. We have Teferi's Protege, Grasp of Darkness, Wall of Runes, Turret Ogre, Drowsing Pteranodon, Liliana Steward, Revitalize, Thrill of Possibility, Cancel, and our first uncommon again is Tavern Swindler, Light of Promise, and Riddle Form. I think so. Let's talk about Riddle Form. 1 in a blue enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may have Riddle Form become a 3/3 Sphinx in the creature with flying in addition to its other types until end of turn. Pay 2 in a blue, scry 1. This card people have been using a lot in Standard in terms of a red-blue Spellslinger deck. It's a turn 2. You play out a spell on turn 3, becomes a 3/3 in the air for flying. It has the potential to become a blocker in your opponent's turn if you cast something, say, like a trick or some kind of form of removal. Now you have an additional 3/3 blocker with flying on your side of the field till the end of turn. I think it's a great card in those style of decks. In Limited, it's not a bad pickup if you're in those colors. It's a solid card. Can't complain. We have a foil of Valorous Steed, and our rare for the pack is Gadrak the Crown Scourge, 2 in a red, legendary creature dragon, 5/4 with flying. Gadrak the Crown Scourge can attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. At beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. This is an interesting one. I have been looking to make some interesting commander decks with this. Limited, it is a bomb. The fact you can get a 5/4 with flying on turn 3 is annoying. The fact you have to have 4 artifacts can be troublesome, but that it can generate those artifacts just by creatures dying is it makes it possible to actually be able to swing with this in a game with Limited. I know there have been people working to make this in Standard playable, and I think it has potential. This is a very, very well designed card from Wizards, and I think this was probably more aimed at the Commander crowd, but it's designed in such a way that it's not impossible to play in other formats, which I'm really happy for. I think it's a great rare. Definitely not unhappy to have gotten it, and I think it can be really fun to play around. Okay. Let's see, second to last pack. Token at... Okay, we've got Grasp, that's the wrong pile, Grasp, Turn to Nature, Magmut, Singer, Training, Crypt Lurker, Shieldmate, Igneous Cur, Opt. We have another Palladium Mirror, Thaif's Fetters, 3 in a white, Enchantment Aura, Enchant Permanent. When this card enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. Enchanted Permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Great piece of white, quote-unquote, removal. It's great pickup in Limited. I think it has sideboard potential in Standard. Can definitely... Effective enchantment can, depending on the deck, be problematic for an opponent to deal with. I think it's a great card. Definitely something you don't want to necessarily play a lot of copies main board, maybe 1 or 2, depending on your style of deck, but I think it definitely is going to see sideboard play in Standard for a while. We have Lore Scale Kotal, pretty good card, and we have Sanctum of Stone Fanes. And we have another Temple of Silence. Okay, and our last pack. Who knows? Maybe we could pull that Teferi out of this. Token, that. Okay, let's see what we got. Wishcoin Crab. Life Goes On. Gale Swooper. Sky Scanner. Goblin Arsonist. Pride Malkin. Fetid Imp. Keen Glide Master. Staunch Shieldmate. And uncommon is Gaggle Master. Eliminate. And Unleash Fury. And we have a foil Rugged Highlands, and our rare is Basri's Lieutenant. I was hoping to see one of these. I really wanted to talk about this card. White and 3 additional, Human Knight 3/4. Vigilance protection for multicolored. When this card enters the battlefield, you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever this card or another creature you control, if it has a 1/1 counter on it when it dies, you create a 2/2 Knight creature token with Vigilance. This is a great limited pick for playing white and for playing Tokens Matters. I think it's a very powerful card, and I think it will definitely see some form of standard play in white decks. Although, being as it stands, white is not a popular color for standard. I think once rotation happens, you'll probably be seeing white decks playing this, and you're probably already going to be seeing white decks at some level, probably, especially on Arena, and probably outside of Mythic, people playing this card. Well, that is the last card out of the box, but let's see. I'm just going to do a quick review of what we pulled. We have Bastard Cat, Discontinuity, 2 copies of Terror of the Peaks, a Alt Art Scavenging Ooze, Foil Containment Priest, an Azusa Lost but Seeking, and a foil Hooded Blightfang. I would say this box was probably about average. I'm happy with the pulls I got. I'm really happy with the mythics I ended up getting. Have a bunch of good uncommons and actually some staple common cards and rares that I'm going to sort out later. But I would say if you're getting into Magic, core sets are a great place to start. They are very good introductory sets in terms of mechanics and getting a feel for how colors play, as a lot of the other sets tend to be more thematically themed, and some of their mechanics tend to be set based on the one set. If you're just now getting into it, it's a great pickup. You don't even have to get a whole booster box. The starter decks are a great place to start too. Or if you just want to buy a couple of packs, pull them and see what you get. There are definitely cards that are going to retain value monetarily wise for trades in this set. And it's a fun set to draft too. It's nothing super crazy. There are some bombs for it in limited. But I think overall it's a relatively fun set to draft. Anyways, that's the end of our video today. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what I can do to improve, what kind of products you would like to see me talk about in the future or do pack openings of. I am looking at some point maybe to do deck overview videos of some of my personal decks, mainly my Commander and whatever decks I build for Standard. And as I said, as more sets release, I'll probably try to do more boxes of them. I know within the last week I've released 3 videos, but that's just to help fill the channel, pad it out. I'll probably limit it to maybe 1 video, maybe every week or 2. It is a bit of money to drop down on a full booster box every week. So we'll see. But I'm having a lot of fun making these videos, and I hope you guys are having fun watching them. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a great night, everybody. I can't believe I'm doing this again. So, a bit of a false alarm there. As I stopped recording and went to go pick up all the packs, all the foiling from the booster packs to toss out, I discovered that at some point I had picked up a booster pack, set it to the side, and it got covered with the empty boosters. So I have one more pack to go through. Who knows? Maybe this will have our 5th mythic. Or it'll be a complete dud. Let's find out. So again, real sorry about that. Okay, real quick. I'm not even going to talk about these, just going to go through them real quick. If there's anything you want to read, feel free to stop the video. Brute, Watchdog, Crash Through, Canopy Stalker, Battle Rattle, Solidarity, and our last rare is a Chandra's Incinerator. 5 and a red, elemental 6/6. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. Mainly being from spells and abilities like you're pinging your opponent with creatures abilities like the Magma, or hitting with shocks. And it has trample. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, this card deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. If you want to play a burn deck, this is a card to include. So, again, sorry about that, guys. I'll have to be more careful about that in the future. Anyways, I hope you guys had a great time again, and I hope you all have a great night. See you around.